What's going on YouTube? Archer Bluth coming at you with another video. Before we get started though, as per usual, if you like the video. It's a long video, so bear that in mind. Comment if anything I say you disagree with it, or you have anything further, you want to discuss anything, by all means go nuts. And as per usual, not the most important, but subscribe, because then you can see when I upload next and you can watch. Cool, blimey. Let's get started. It's going to be a longer video. Now, I told you it's on a drama video. This isn't a drama video, this is a critique, as per usual. And I want to point out a lot of the fallacies in this. Is the video essay called When You're Racist But You're Rainbow, by a foreign man in a foreign land. And it takes contention for the worst video essay I've ever seen outside of DJ Muel's. Actually, it is the worst. And there's a key difference. At least with DJ Muel, he understands the fundamentals of video essay. And he can keep a coherent point, even if the point is just a horrible point. Foreign just jumped all over the place, and he's just using zoomer editing throughout it to try and hide the fact that he didn't have a point in this video. So, let's get started. I want to do a fact check. First and foremost, actually, before we do the fact check, I just want to point something out. This ties in with the previous videos that I've done on Cornbread Tube, previous videos that I've done on Soul Bunny, FD Signifier. These terminally online motherfuckers are very cavalier with what are highly offensive terms. And I don't think they realize it, but we've seen examples of it with Jesse Gender reposting or liking shit on Twitter as a cosign, using the scene where what's the guy's name? Anyways, Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django Unchained is like mourning and hugging over Leonardo DiCaprio's character, essentially calling Shark house slave, the other term for it. These are all highly offensive terms. And then the term, I'm going to say it because I don't use it in comments, but I'm going to say it now anyways. The term coon is also highly offensive. Those are very loaded terms. To call a minority, like a black person, a race traitor is very offensive. Or like the equivalent for it. Like, I'm telling you now, you go into Englewood, the Wild Hundreds in Chicago, like Englewood's district, just on West Side. You go to Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn, maybe not so much Brooklyn and Queens at the moment. They're starting to gentrify. Even Bronx is. You go to Yonkers. You go to Baltimore. Go to any rough place where a lot of like hyper-violent area, where these people have nothing to lose, and you drop that term as an insult towards one of them, you watch what happens to you. You watch it. Like, these guys, like, you ever watch those hood pranks where those guys go in there and they're like, do you want a two-piece? Do you want a two-piece? And then the dude will just go off their rocker, put them in a chokehold up against the wall, whip out a knife or something like that. And they're like, I mean a two-piece. And they pull out like a KFC two-piece feed or some shit. Like, you see the reaction that you get for that shit. You just imagine if you were to call them a coon, what would happen? You're getting stabbed. You're getting, like, in Australia, if you do that to an indigenous person or to any black people, like African migrants, so on and so forth, you can get your ass beat. You know what I mean? Like, you do that in the wrong place, you can get your ass beat. Probably stabbed, your legs broken. Like, it will happen. It is very offensive. It's not a term of endearment from one black person to another, and it's not a softened insult. So the fact that Foreign, who I think he's from Bahamian, doesn't understand this, it shows he's just bandwagoning onto shitty behavior. And yeah, my man, you got to think about what the fuck you're saying, because you say that's wrong. Like Shark is a fairly level-headed person. You say that's the wrong person. Like if you was to say that to me, like to my face, I'm 6'6", 280 pounds, former kickboxer, I would have beat the fuck out of him, broken his nose bone and shit. Like it's not a pleasant terminology to use towards someone. The connotation behind it is, if you call someone a coon, you're essentially calling him a race trader and vermin, less than human. So just think about that before you use it again. I don't think you understand the reality of that terminology. You're terminally online. You have a circle of friends. You think you can get away with that shit. It'll catch up to you. You use that in the wrong context with the wrong person, it's going to catch up to you. So just stop using it. And he did that, like memeing Shark and insinuating he's a coon, when he's talking about Dave Chappelle being a race trader, which is insane. Dave Chappelle did 824, if I remember correctly. Yeah, if you're doing 824, you are definitely not a race trader. Like, I don't think he watched that either, but nonetheless, like, Dave Chappelle's done some horrible shit recently, but let's not go on ahead and mislabel him, because you got your feelings bent out of shape. So yeah, I think it's a 7-minute preface. Let's get into the fact checking. So this video is poorly edited, has bad time sticking to arguments. The first argument he made is the issue of people leaning into their identity, trying to avoid scrutiny. He uses Jussie Smollett. That's a bad example. Jussie Smollett didn't get away with it. He was found guilty, and now he's a laughingstock. I think we can leave it at that. The only people that did question him were people of his own identities. Both the gay community and the black community sort of side-eyed this, and a lot of them stayed quiet for a while, as joked about with Dave Chappelle's Juicy Smoothie. It was really only like your milk toast Hollywood that would turn around and be like, I stand with Jussie and all this shit. Black people were just like, ugh, that done that up. Like, you're not going to find rope in downtown Chicago. You're not going to find a bunch of MAGA supporters in downtown Chicago. Like, those MAGA supporters are going to have to get around a whole other bunch of people that don't really like Trump, and are much more violent than Jussie Smollett. So, yeah, that was a shitty example to use. He then pivoted to O.J. Simpson, which is another shitty example to use, because if you are to use O.J. Simpson leaning into his blackness as a way to avoid scrutiny, you are out of your goddamn mind. The reason why, or his wealth, is... Have you ever heard of Robert Griffin III? Like, a lot of people don't know who he is. He's a football player. I think he was a quarterback. Yeah, he's a quarterback. Yes, OJ's a running back. Juice was running back. He's a quarterback. He was accused by Rob Parker, who's a journalist back then. He was on ESPN. Got kicked off ESPN very quickly after this, of being a cornball brother. Now, what he meant by cornball brother is he's very obviously black, but he tried to downplay it rather than own it. Now, Rob is not like a dashiki wearing sort of guy. He's a black dude. And he's basically saying, like, hey, man, why are you downplaying? Like, we're all black. It's something to be celebrated. You don't have to be militant about it, but why do you keep downplaying it? And he called him cornball brother. Copped a lot of critique and criticism for it. The reason why I bring it up is the Juice was RG3 before RG3 was born, if that computes. Juice was a raw motherfucker, like, from all reports. with his friends prior to. But when he was famous, he distanced himself from it. So he kind of disconnected with the black community. It wasn't his blackness or his wealth so far as being able to afford lawyers, which any wealthy person can do, that got him off. So right there, foreign's misrepresenting what actually happened during the OJ case. What happened during the OJ case wasn't that he was black and the police being brutal. That played a factor in it because of what happened with Rodney King just before. But that wasn't what got him off. What got him off was the prosecution leaned so heavily into DNA evidence, which is something that the jurors around America and around the world didn't quite understand at that point, didn't understand how definitive DNA evidence is. Even police didn't really know how to handle, like criminalists and forensic scientists didn't quite know how to handle the evidence back then because it was still fairly new, to the point where there was some malpractice, like one of the criminalists that was collecting the evidence used the same swab over 3 different blood samples, which is an easy way to get someone off because then you could turn around and say, well, it's inconclusive. There's over 3 different samples. So there's all these litanies of errors that occurred in that case that helped the dream team, Johnny Cochran, Robert Kardashian, I think it was Shapiro and Geraldo Rivera, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember exactly, but they were able to build a case that showed enough reasonable doubt in the jury, who already was distrustful of the police, given what had happened with Rodney King. So no, he didn't lean into his identity to get off the case. They posited the idea, it just didn't work. Like the juice was in the fucking Naked Gun. If you're in the Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen, like sure, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in Airplane, but they played into some of the things that made Kareem Abdul-Jabbar after he changed his name and converted to Islam. They didn't really do that with the Jews, right? So, it's a shit argument to use. He also used Ellen DeGeneres. I don't think he understands and is a child of the 90s. Ellen dealt with a lot of shit to get to where she is. For those that don't understand, like, it was JCPenney. They had people protesting against her performing. Like, essentially, as much of an asshole as Ellen was, she never leaned into a womanhood to avoid scrutiny. In fact, all she did was shut the hell up about it, which is kind of what you do if you're a celebrity. Just shut up about it and sweep it under the rug and not deal with it. She wasn't actively like, I'm a woman, there's no way I could do all this shit. So, yeah, that's a bad example. And then Colleen Ballinger, again, really, like, she's been mocked. And not only mocked, all the receipts of her bad behavior have come out. And it wouldn't surprise me if there may be some civil cases that come off the back of that, as well as possibly even criminal, depending on what the statute of limitations are in California. But nonetheless, yeah, all these examples that he used are A, of people that didn't get away with it, or B, of people who were found not guilty and their case was acquitted due to malpractice by the not the prosecution, but at least the evidence that the prosecution was using was misunderstood and the other evidence was faulty. All right? I got 6 more minutes to do this. We'll skip over some of this. Basically, the only other instance where he talks about the identity, leaning into identity to avoid scrutiny, that would really apply is his own case, which it just seems weird. Like, you're sitting there talking about how these people do all these bad things, and the evidence, like, there's no evidence of like Vosh leaning into his sexuality or his him being on the spectrum and having, I think it was Asperger's, I can't remember, but using that to avoid scrutiny. In fact, he rarely ever mentions it. His fans might, but not him. So that doesn't make sense. And people don't really dismiss it. You know, if you've seen any of his fans on their Discord and shit like that, or was it the Reddit, they're kind of grilling him all the time, and he has to sort of filter through the grilling. So that's a shit example. Also brings up Keffals. I don't know why. I think they're just bent out of shape because of the whole noodles drama, which to me is stupid. Like, if I saw jollof rice in a cookbook made by a white lady, I wouldn't give a shit because, hey, that's great. She wants to try and make jollof. She's probably going to suck at it, but that doesn't bother me. Like, it's not cultural appropriation in that sense. It's fucking food. You know what I mean? Like, every time you go out and you eat McDonald's as a non-American, actually, even as an American, you are appropriating culture. You are stealing from the Germans and stealing from the Belgians. When you go and eat, like gumbo, as even an African American, you go and eat gumbo, you are appropriating Nigerian culture because gumbo comes from gomba, which is okra. So eat your heart out, motherfuckers. You sit there and whinge about cultural appropriation. Get the fuck out of here. When you wear a dashiki and the relevant skull cap, despite the fact you don't know where you come from originally, you are appropriating Ghanaian culture. Because that garb don't exist throughout all of West Africa, and to assume that you are Ghana is a bit silly again. So, yeah, keep a buck. Like this video was nonsense. I also hold a great disdain for the fact that he was going to use someone's fights with addiction and tried to downplay that as a way, like basically say it's not a get out of jail free pass, despite the fact it wasn't necessarily the addiction. It's more so what led to that, which is getting swatted, getting harassed above and beyond any harassment that you've experienced, foreign. So maybe you should just shut the fuck up about that. That is not your business. Not my business, but yeah, it's pretty gross. Like, to try and downplay someone's problems with addictions and flatten it down so it suits your argument, which you didn't really make an argument or provide any evidence of anyways. Pretty gross. So, look, the one other criticism that I'll provide for this video, outside of the fact it was really just drama trying to be disguised as analysis and an argument, is there's a lot of tokenism in there. A lot of to counter your being bi or queer and on the spectrum, I have my very own. It's like throwing out fucking pokeballs, as Demon Mama once said. So all in all, pretty gross. And for anyone within the cornbread tube sphere to stand by that video essay, yikes, that speaks a lot. So, yeah, look, like I said, don't watch. I recommend that you don't watch it. Video essayists, I keep saying this, but you cats need to step your shit up. You need to stop leaning into what you think creates good content and engaging content by just smearing and slinging muds at people who are ideologically aligned with you for 95% of your ideas, and perhaps just start going back to good video essays. You're kind of dragging the genre down, and also harming progressive movement. So step your shit up. Anyways, all the best, all as per usual. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.